Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Slightly different video. Got the L322 down in Wales. I'm off to Spain in the middle of next week. So I thought it was a really good opportunity to come down, number one, see my mum, and two, get all the camping gear out of this thing, air it all out, have a night in the quiet, or relatively quiet, and I'll show you what I'm taking with me to Spain. So it's going to be a 4-week trip. Some of it's going to be in hotels, etc. But I'm going to go do the Trans-Portugal, north to south. The Duchess and I are going to spend a couple of days in Faro. And then when she goes back, I'm going to go do east to west to Sagres, go all the way up the sand trails, and then work my way right across Portugal, Spain, and hopefully do some of the Pyrenees trails and then come back. So I just need to make sure I've got everything that I need so I can go on this trip. So I'm not going to do any cooking or anything like that. Cooking is not my strong point. But I'm going to get everything out, set the camera up so you can see what I've got, and I'll walk you through some of the bits and pieces that are added to this thing since the last time I did one of these type of walkthroughs. So stay tuned. So there's a couple of things that I generally do because I've got an L322 and because I've got a 2010 model. Those of you that are either considering having one of these or have one know they're really susceptible to battery drain if you leave all the doors open. So if you're not aware, the problem is when you open up any of the doors, it basically thinks, hey, we want to go for a drive, and it fires up a lot of modules and draws power from the battery. So what I've learned to do is when I show up somewhere, I open the door, get everything out, and then shut the doors. I turn the interior lights out, although mine's are LEDs. If you have still got the incandescent bulbs, I highly recommend you change them to LEDs. It's less draw. Get everything out that I need, and then what I can do is make sure I close all the doors. Now, some of you might be thinking, that's a bit OCD and paranoid. It is. However, I've been caught out twice because I've either opened the doors, closed the doors, opened the doors. So I believe you do it once, get everything out, then shut the door, and everything will close down. It's just a tip. If you have one of these, the later discoveries do this too. And I think all modern vehicles after this one was built do the same thing. So just be careful. So for me, everything in here is sort of where I need it. And I always, again, in pretty anal, know exactly where everything is, that I can go in here once, get everything, pull it all out. And that's why I'm big about organizing things. I'll have a little bit of a rant about rooftop tents and speed and lack of organization later. But anyway, here is everything inside of here. Tarps, ground sheets, cot, tents around the corner, all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to get all this out and begin to start setting it up. So I've got a Oz10 RV4 tarp. It's the mesh, and this is a lot quieter. It's a lot easier on the feet. So I'm going to set this up and then lay this one out. That gives me something to put everything down on. Now this thing I used for the first time when I went to France back in April. Put the Oz10 on top of it. I'm not even sure if I actually cleaned it off. Nope, doesn't look like it when I came back. But anyway, as you can see, it's massive. So what I'm generally going to do, because I've got my Moonshade awning that I'm going to take with me, is I'm just going to drop it in half. As you can see, this is pretty big. But once you have the Oz tent on it, because of the way that the awning comes out the front of the Oz tent, you end up with a decent place. So you end up with a really nice area that you can put your feet, tent, and you don't end up in a situation where you get mud on your feet. Or sand, or whatever it is that you use. So I try and get this as straight as I possibly can, and then up against the back of the car. It rained overnight down here. It's quite soggy and wet, but it's okay. Put you up there. So the next is the cot. This is the Cot Max Convertible by Helinox. Some people have said the stuff that you use is very expensive. I'm of the opinion that you buy it once and you're done. So I'm always after the best quality stuff that I can get for the price. I don't believe in going to Amazon and buying really cheap shit that will break. So yeah, it is on the high pricey side. But you can get other versions. You can get a One Tigerist one that is very, very similar, a little bit cheaper. I actually think they were copied, but there are obviously subtle differences. I love the cot. And I've been on about rooftop tents and cots and getting to a ground tent. Some disagree, perfectly fine. But by having a cot, you get yourself up off the ground. And with the extension legs, which are down there, you get yourself up at a decent level. So it becomes really quite comfortable. You don't need to worry about the cold coming up from the ground. Not that I generally camp in cold weather. But anyway, that's why I like it, and it's really comfortable. I do put an inflatable mat on top of it, and I've got different ones. I've got an XP. The problem with that one is it doesn't sort of close down to be quite compact. So I've actually got a Zenbivy one that I bought that I really like. It's quite comfortable. That compresses down a lot better. So let me get this set up. You can watch it. We'll see whether we keep that in or not. It doesn't take long to do. So there are two poles that go down the outside, and then you actually get the cot itself. Now, if it's raining or the weather's, or it's brutally hot, I generally put the awning up first. But when you put the awning up first, I would have to put a light on because it gets quite dark under there. So I have my Moonshade. Some of you have seen videos of me with the longer nature hike top that I use, which is the gabled top. But this one I really like. So some of you have seen the gabled top that I've got. That is from Nature Hike. I like that one a lot. It's quite light, but I'm now using a Moonshade, and I'll show you what that looks like when I get this set up. Now this does take some effort to get this in. Don't start at one end and work your way the other way. So I always go to the middle and then work my way through. It just makes it easier to clamp these down. And then the cot's got legs. You have to buy these extra. So this is good enough to go as it is, but it's still quite low to the ground. So the legs pop in quite comfortably. You just slide them in. And again, the One Tigerist one, and I don't know the make, is very similar to this. Same sort of concept, same sort of idea, a couple of legs. Now I've probably spent maybe 100 nights on this thing, and I love it. So that's the Cot Max Convertible, and like I say, you can see it gets up quite a distance. It's extremely comfortable. You can actually sit on it as a chair if you want, but yeah, love it. And this cot So this is the J-Cot 210, 210 meaning the length. This is the length of the cot. And I've raved about this thing since I had it a year and a half ago. Yeah, it's yellow, but I do love it. So let me just show you what this is. So on either ends of the cot tent, there are these zipper pockets. It doesn't really matter which way, it's not sided, which way you put this up, but there's zipper pockets, you can see that. So on this end, there are closed pockets, and you run the closed pockets over the corner. A little difficult to do with one hand. And then you just pull this over and then zip these down. Now you don't need to zip them down if you don't want to, but I've just found the best way for me to do it is just zip the things down. And what it does, it stops the cot tent moving around when you move around on it. So this is one pole, and I've sort of got used to how this all goes together. There's a piece in the middle, how this all connects, and then you just work your way through. It's all got shock cord on it. And then you just clip them in to the bottom. There's these tabs, and it's just one of these guy ropes, and you just work your way through, putting this together. And the only thing I need to remember when I do it is that these tabs at the end need to go upright. So once the frame's done, right in the middle of here, flip it over, and then it's just a simple case of going around and just clipping it in, and I'll quickly show you what they look like. So this tab here will lift up, and then the ends of these, as you can see, pop into the ends of those. Let's put you back here. So it's quite easy to put together, and it doesn't take as long as you probably think it does. I'm going backwards and forwards and talking to you and not paying attention, but then there are clips on either side. There is no bad weather coming, hopefully, so all of these clips don't generally need to be put in. This is a one person, it came from South Korea. I know plenty of people have been asking me, you can't get it commercially, you can't buy it anywhere else except South Korea. No, you can't, but if you go to their customer service and email them and just tell them where you are, you have to put in a purchase order and a bank transfer for the money to get them. Just so you know, Helinox have come out with a tactical cot, which is very, very similar to this. However, it's got the poles don't have one ridge pole, they have two. So if you don't want one of these glaring yellow ones, and I appreciate yellow is not probably the best colour to have, but I like to be different. Then you can go get one of their tactical cots. I'll put a link in the description for the Helinox. They are different. I had looked at them when they were released, and I figured they might fit on, with what I've got, but this is perfectly fine with what I need, and I'm happy with this. So anyway, that's the J-Cot 210. 210 being the longest one. I'm close to 6'3", so I need the space. So this is a Zenbivy. So this is the Zenbivy mattress that I use. It's really compact, it's small. It's got an inflation packet. I don't use that. So what I've got, and Flextail sent me these to test them out, and I highly recommend that you try this, is one of these little zero pumps. These are from Flextail. I'm not sure how much they are. They're about 30 quid, I think. Got a rechargeable battery in it. But these are really small, you can see. Very, very tiny. Comes with a bunch of these different tubes on the end. Just slide them on, depending on what your application is. Now, the great thing I do like about this cot tent is that if it's really hot, you can keep these flaps open either side. They open, both of them open. Generally, when I'm in here, I normally keep one of these open, one of these vents open, and I sleep very, very comfortably with the vents open. I've never had any problems at all with condensation in this thing. There's vents either end, either side, and because of these huge doors, you're not going to get any condensation in it. Okay, double click. Now you can use these without putting in a mat. I've just found it more comfortable to have a sleeping mat underneath this. It's a Flextail Zero pump, but these are excellent. So that's the Zenbivy pad pumped up. I don't pump it all the way. There's plenty of give in that, as you can see. Hopefully you can see. So I now go, instead of a sleeping bag, I've now got a Zenbivy quilt. So this is a Zenbivy, I think it's the light quilt. I pretty much ditch using sleeping bags now. The great thing about this is that it has a sheet, and there are tabs on the side of it, just like at home if you've got a quilt, is that these tabs hook it up. So what happens is you don't get any cold spots. So if you shift around at night, this is all connected in. It's got this foot box, which also you can connect up as well through these tabs. And so if you want, you can just have it laying on top of you, or if it does get a bit chilly and your feet get cold, you can just fit that on. But it also has an integrated hood. I'm not a big fan of hoods, but the great thing about that is it keeps your pillow inside of where the hood is. So anyway, that's the Zenbivy, I think it's the light bag. Again, I'll put a link in the description of the bag for you. And that's my sleeping setup. So I've actually timed it, although I've been doing cameras and all the rest of it. It's 11 minutes to get the cot, the tent, and the bag chucked in here, which is pretty good. So I do have a pillow. It is inflatable. The only downside to this is that this bag, this inflatable bag, is really very thin. And so you've got to be careful. But again, a couple of puffs. This will fit in the hood. I've got another inflatable, this is the inflatable Helinox air foam headrest. And so every now and again, I'm a side sleeper, I might put this in there as well to give my head a little bit more comfort, but that's what this is. Okay, so I've got a Moonshade. So I'll put a picture of this thing with the Nature Hike gabled top, which goes over the end of this. And that requires poles. So I've got something called a Moonshade. I'll quickly put it up so you can see it put it up. And what I've done, we'll come over here, is it comes with a pole that allows you to attach the Moonshade directly to the vehicle. Now it also has some suction cups. I tried it, but I couldn't find anywhere to make it fit properly. So on the top here, you can probably just about see there are two quick fist grips. And what I'm going to do is I will run the pole which attaches the Moonshade to the vehicle through those quick fist grips. Can't remember what they're called. And that will run the pole right the way over, and I will attach my Moonshade to it. So I will put the camera down, I will set this up, and you can watch me struggle to get it up. It doesn't take long, it probably takes a couple of minutes, but what that will allow me to do is put the shade over the back, and I'll put two poles up, and then I'll run the back wall across there to give me some protection. And to the romantic sounds of the sheep baying in the background, let's get this up. So I used this when I went to Portugal last year. It rained on me maybe 2 or 3 times, I guess. The only downside to it is when you, underneath the shade itself, the only downside is underneath the shade, there's gaps in it. So if it does rain, you might end up leaking. So here's the pole that I'm going to run through the fist grips. I'll find out what the names are. But anyway, I'm just going to run it all the way through, and it will poke out the other end. There's pockets on the end where you slide these poles into. And as you can see, these will begin to rise up. I'll quickly show you the pocket. See, there's the pocket here. And they just slide in. I'll just put you here. And like a lot of things, they just got clips on them. Just clip it in. There are 2 in the middle. One clips one way, one clips on the top. What happens is you see it pops out here. There is a hole here, you just clip it in. And one on the other side. So it does come with poles, but I don't use them. So I have these green elephant telescopic poles. I got 4 of them. This thing will stand on its own without having to touch it to the vehicle. The thing I like about these, you just give them one twist and they're up. Let's put the second one in. Some people don't like these green elephant poles because they believe that they leak, but they've got caps on them, and what you can do is drop the cap over the top, and then it stops the water coming through the hole. Right, so I have 2 walls. One is a long wall, one is a sidewall. I need to remember which one's which. So if I'm in a campsite, what I generally do is I will back this thing in, put this up, and then run one of the walls where I've got neighbours, just for some bit of privacy. If I'm not, and I'll just run this over the back. I will guy out the poles. Right, so I'm not going to put that up. That's the side wall. We've got 2 more poles. And we'll just move you over here. So you can run this to the ground and you can stake it down. I'm going to have to get my guys out. So you could run the wall down and you could tack it down. You know what? Let's do that. Because if not, I'm going to have to move my ground sheet. And as you can see here from the top, run that through the spigot, and it's got this bung that you can put on top. And that's what I do over here to keep the, so it doesn't work its way up. So on this end, if it was to lift up, it's going to pull up the pole. As long as it's guyed down, it's not going to come off the top of the spigot. Okay. As I mentioned before, the only downside is that there is a gap where the wall is. And you can pull it, but sometimes what happens is you can try and cinch this up, but there is a gap here. There's not a lot you can do about it. It's really not designed as an enclosure that is watertight. So what generally happens is if it does rain, the water drips on the tent. So you've got 2 choices. Put this up straighter, where it doesn't have so much of a gap, or shift the tent over. But under here, the thing I like about this it is extremely spacious. I can just about grab hold of that hook to put a light up. But here's the thing I love about it. The top of the tailgate doesn't even touch it. So I've got shelter. So there you go. So generally, that's me done. I have my shower tent on the side here. This is from DFG Off-Road. Now, because I've got my water tank, which has got 50 litres, I don't generally run it full, but it depends. I've also got my water heater in there. So I've got my 6-litre water heater. I can turn that on about 45 minutes to an hour before I know I'm going to stop. That will get the hot water nice and hot. We're talking 85 to 100 degrees. I can get it hotter, but that's comfortable enough. There's a temperature dial on it. And I can open this up and I can have a shower. Now, the way I've got that set up is it's all connected through my Egon water hub. Of course, I'm going to go open the door. So I've got that set up through my Egon water hub. And this thing is the shower head. So once I've got the hot water, I can go plug my shower head into this, turn on the pump. It will mix the hot water to the cold water and give me the temperature. And then this, and it's going to be really difficult to do with one hand, but on the end of here is this hole. So let me go plug it in, I'll show you what it looks like. So I drilled a small hole in the roof rack, and then all I need to do is run this into here. Open up the shower curtain, and I can have a hot shower. So if I want a wild camp, and I have done this, I did this last year, this is what I do. Generally that doesn't come down if I'm wild camping. But I'll hide away somewhere, pop this up, put the poles in, put this tent up, and then hide away and camp out. If I think it's sort of exposed, this won't go up, and then I'll just drop down this, the ground sheet, pop the tent up, put it close to the vehicle down either one side around the back, and hide out. Now, because I've figured out how to pump 70 amps of power from my start battery through my Egon DC hub to my 200 amp hour lithium batteries now, I don't need any solar blankets. I've got one, but I don't take it anymore. I don't need to worry about onshore power because absolutely everything is charging those batteries now when I drive. So I could quite comfortably now, as I've already gone through 2 GoPro batteries, plug this in and charge them up and not worry about draining any of this power, because I generally will only stay for a day. If I'm at a campsite for 2 days, I'll probably get onshore power, and then I'll fire everything up just to keep everything topped over. Now, there's one other thing that I do when I'm away that I need to put together, and that is my Starlink. First I need to clean up these poles. So a couple of things that are really good by having 200 amp hours of battery and it being charged from the back is that I can charge up all my devices, all my batteries directly off the back here. So in here, this is all controlled off the DC hub. That's how I get power. I've got 2 USB-Cs, USB-A, USB-C, USB-A, and then a 12-volt adapter at the bottom. Great bit of advice, can't remember where I got it from, was if you have 12 volts, go buy one of these plugs. These will fit into 12 volts. So if you need more USBs, you can just simply plug this into 12 volt. Because if you have them fixed and you need a 12 volt, you're screwed. So I have 2 of these. I have one for the back here, and then one from the panel that I have behind the driver's seat. So I can keep these things left over here, charged up directly off the power over here. And that's all coming directly through the DC hub and pulling battery power out to those two monsters down there. And because everything is controlled through the shunt, I'm currently on 97%. And if I keep on going the way that I'm going now, the red vision will tell me that I've got, well, it's still figuring it out, 8 days, 9. It'll keep on working out as if sort of calculates the power left. So you might be able to see this, that on the current power draw that we have with the Starlink system, I got 4 days left, 97%. So if I ran everything that I'm running right now, it'll keep on calculating. It will start to go up when it figures out what the draw is. I can turn on my fridge and we'll start to see power drop a bit. So now the fridge is powering up, and now we're going to drop down to 97%. If I keep on going by the current draw, well, the fridge is at 30. So the fridge down here is the 30 degrees. That'll keep on going down to temperature. And as you can see, the draw there, if it keeps on going with the current power draw, in 23 hours I'll drain this thing, but it won't go down that far anyway. It'll get down to temperature. So if we turn off the fridge, then what'll end up happening is the red vision will figure out the draw that's coming through, recalculate, and then that 1 day will start to work its way back up again. There you go, 2 days. And I've also got draw coming in here charging these two up as well. So that's why it's got it down there. It'll keep on doing this. It does it all the way through. Whether you look at it or not, doesn't really matter. But anyway, I got my Starlink system powered up. That's a minimal amount of draw. My Wi-Fi box is powered on. And then I'm charging 2 batteries. So yeah, you'll see if it will keep on going here for 2 days. And of course, when I'm finished here tomorrow, I disconnect all of this, jump in the car, 97%. It'll probably only take about 20 minutes to charge these batteries back up, because the 70 amp that I have pulled through from the start battery through my Manager 30, hidden behind the back here, and then the BC-DC, which is a really small unit, which is sort of on the back here. So there's a Starlink pointing sort of east, northeast. So that is the 2024 setup. So this will take me all the way through for a month, down through Spain and Portugal into the Spanish Pyrenees. And then I'll come back, and then I'm going to tackle the winch. So what will end up happening is I'm going to have to cut. So what's going to entail there is basically where you see the red park distance control, this piece will all be cut out, and I'll go down to pretty much here, and then the tray will fit up against the back here where the original bumper crash structure is. Now, one thing I'm going to try and do is, Max made me a plate that fits on the top of here. It's more of a strengthening plate, especially for winches that you cut in the top. Because I've got a control pack, relocation control pack, mine will sit lower. I am going to try to do what probably should have done the first time, is you can probably just see in here is, here are the holes for the mounting points. I believe that what's going to happen is when the winch bumper goes on and is bolted up to the crash structure underneath here, I might be able to move these mounting brackets out. And if I can move them out here, this will allow me to get a new grill and not have to see these cuts. That's what I'm hoping. So I'm going to order a new grill, get all this ripped off, put everything back on, and see whether I can re-drill this and move these spotlights out slightly. They don't need to come out that much because it's just the mounting bracket on one side, which is really here and there. So I think I might be able to do that and then put a new grill on. The other thing I've got to do, you might be able to see this. That headlight is original. It started to cloud up. That one got replaced with the accident. That's brand new. That's a new lens from Powerful UK. I bought a new lens, but the problem is to get access to that, the bumper's got to come off, and I'm not going to faff around with it before I go away. I have tried really hard to get some wet and dry on this and then sand it, but I cannot get any of this white scratch marks out of it. I have tried. I put compound on it. It's smooth, but I think all of this picturing over a period of time is just, it needs replacing. So I've got a new replacement lens. Once all the bumper comes out, then that is coming out. I'll get access to the bolt. There's a bolt down here. Pull all this out, bake them on 85 degrees for about 5 minutes, pull them apart, put them back together again. While I'm down here, there's one thing I'm going to do. Anybody that's got one of these vehicles, 2010, knows that they're absolute bastards for battery drain, especially over a long period of time. So I'm going to go pull the trigger on a solar panel for the bonnet hood if you're in the States. The one that I'm going to go for is a company called Cascadia 4x4, the Canadian. And then I'm going to get one of their Defender, the new Defender versions that they've got. So the question is, why are you getting that? Well, they're square and they just fit sort of within the ridges and the castellations on the bonnets that we have here on these. So it will fit 83 across, and I think it's 72 down. And then it comes with a decal that goes underneath that. So I'm going to get a decal from Powerful UK. They do one for the new Defender. Put the decal on, then put the solar panel. It uses 3M HFB, that really strong double-sided tape. What I will then do is snip off the connector, run the connector. So I will run the cable through here, not through over the top. Just run it in through here, make it nice and neat. Put a picture up here, I'll show you what they look like, but I'm going to run it in through here. Up to an MPPT controller, onto the battery, and then that will trickle charge the battery when this thing's not running, because it's not a daily driver. And so what I'll be able to do is just leave it outside, and it will just keep on charging up that battery. So I don't need to worry about getting dead batteries, any of that. It'll all be taken care of by having that that solar panel on the bonnet. They actually look quite cool. So I get a lot of people always say to me, is this really a 2011 L322? Because the vents are different. And I was like, yep, it is. An Autobiography Black. It was 2011 model year. And yes, 11 L322. So for this trip, I'm taking my Max Tracks. I don't think I need them. I've used them twice. The reason why I've got them is because there are a number of washouts. And this thing, the departure angle of this thing, while it's in extend mode, is actually okay. But I've been through a couple of washouts. I did it on the Trans-Portugal last year. I needed to get 2 of those up and underneath the rear wheels to make sure I didn't drag my exhaust and bumper in the back. So that's really what I'd use them for. Because it's a dry climate, mud, crap like that, don't need to worry. I'm going to do some of the sand runs. I'm going to do some of the sand runs in Portugal. These air down to 20 comfortably. Any lower than that, not sure about it. But that should give me enough to not have to worry about it. But But the reason why, you know, a winch, do you need it? No, of course you don't. Having Max Tracks up there, they can be used for bridging, any sorts of things besides what they're really meant for, to getting out of, you know, solid mud. They can get you out of sand as well. I have not used them for that. The winch is really for me to go further afield. I want to go and do sort of Romania, Bulgaria, places like that. If I do it solo, I've been sort of for a long period of time. I've not gone down anything massively serious, but having a winch, it's an insurance policy. So there you go, slightly different video from normal, not me perched on the back of the L322. Hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. So the next time you probably hear from me will be on Instagram. I'll be taking pictures of this thing working its way down through Portugal. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.